welcome Vishpala and Oindrila. A brief introduction to both of you. Vishpala is the co-founder of Eki Beki, which is an artisanal crafts platform. They have a myriad of crafts that are coming from the rural regions of India, and Vishpala is training artisans, providing market linkages. And we have Oindrila with us, who's a craft expert. Her core area is helping artisans with product development, providing market linkages, and also mentoring in other soft skills. So with that, I'll hand over to you, Vishpala, first, if you could introduce Eki Beki to us and a little bit more about your work.
Thank you, Arunima, and thank you for this opportunity. It is great to be here amongst all of you. I have interacted with Oindrila earlier also. I'm an architect and furniture designer, and the way I have come here is much later in life. I discovered that India has a whole lot of crafts, and I was not even aware about them. So literally in my, so I was working with only bamboo earlier, but almost in my 30s, when I started interacting with the rural artisans, I realized that there is a huge gap there, and that is what I wanted to explore more. So 5 years back, I actually stopped whatever I was doing and now started the NGO and dedicating all my time to the art and crafts of India.
Thank you so much, Vishpala. Andrila, over to you.
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me for this session. It's really a pleasure connecting all. I am meeting Vishpala after a long time. We've been in touch through Creative Dignity. And I am a not design management student of NIF. And there, first time I ventured into craft, like we had a session of craft cluster development. So being a management student, we were given the task of developing some business model for the dyeing clusters. So there, my actual official venturing into craft happened at NIFT around 5 years ago. And my interest in craft ideated, being from a Bengali family, ours is entirely into, saris. So I have always seen my mom and my grandmom wearing different saris from across the states and all. And that's how the interest of craft got imbibed in me.
Right.
And about my current role, so I'm working. Yeah. You are saying something, Arunima?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, so about my current role, so in this last 4.5 years almost, I have been meeting a lot of artisans, helping them developing new products, identifying the clusters, because there are a lot of clusters and a lot of craft which are unknown to the world. People are talking about craft sector. That's a very big thing that has happened over the years. But again, some limited crafts are getting the limelight. There are a lot of crafts to be explored, and I'm in that space where I can help the artisans of the dooming craft, of the dyeing craft, come up to the platform and give a global exposure there. Thank you.
Right. Thanks so much, Andrila. So you said, that you were given a project to work with a craft cluster when you were at NIFT, right? But I'm sure there must be some awareness that you must have had because of your family background or being from an artistic field, right? What were some of these assumptions that you had about Indian arts and crafts, and what were, how close were they when you actually started working with artisans, right? What was the ground experience like?
So when I talk about my earlier assumptions from craft industry, so I had known there are weavers, there are different weaves that existed. So basically my entire revolved around this is a clay craft. Okay, I belong to, my native place is from Bakoda in West Bengal, right? So there the terracotta craft, the big horses are quite famous. But when I actually ventured into this, the craft sector, then it happened that terracotta. When I talk about terracotta, there has been a lot of lot of other variations that has happened, right? The terracotta from West Bengal, Bakoda Shantiniketan, is far different from that has been happening in Gujarat, that has been happening in Ladakh. So working directly closely with the artisans has given me that kind of exposure, and people don't know about. So when they talk about terracotta, first thing comes in mind is Bakoda and West Bengal. But there are, again, terracotta is being practiced in Delhi also. There is a huge cluster in Delhi, but people don't know about it. So that is where I feel there is a huge gap and that can be filled.
Right. So I think, Vishpala, you may have a similar experience, but you would have a perspective coming from the western part of India, right? So what was
Yeah.
your experience like?
So for me, in fact, I grew up in a small town. So when you grow up in a small town, my father had this transferable job. So I've been to multiple villages also. And there, these crafts actually become part of your day-to-day living. So without realizing, you actually you're using lot many of these artifacts or utilitarian crafts for that matter when you are coming from a smaller town. So including putting the rangoli at your doorstep every morning, to drinking water from a terracotta pot, to cooking in the utensils which are made in and around that place. Even the food, for that matter, because these were all villages, you would get only fresh food, fresh fruits and vegetables which are grown in that particular region and that particular time. So I grew up like this. Then I went to NID, and then when I moved to Bombay, I actually realized that this whole cultural awareness about all these things was completely lacking. And when I look back at my childhood, I don't see it as there was no craft awareness as such, which was deliberately done for me, but I grew up with it, which in today's day and age, it completely lacks. There are a couple of reasons. The people have moved on with technology. Many of the crafts have not managed to move with the time. So there are these multiple reasons because of which it has happened, but all this awareness has definitely gone down.
Right. So how are you trying to address this problem with Ekibeki? If you could just help with that a little bit more in details.
So I would say when you look at this problem, you have to look at it from three perspectives. One is from the artisans, the second is from the consumers, and third is the whole ecosystem, the whole craft ecosystem. If you see it from the artisans' point of view, why the crafts are dying? Because the artisans don't have the exposure. They are still in a small village trying to make what has been happening for multiple generations. People, on the other hand, have migrated to bigger cities. Their wants and needs have changed, and somehow with influx of plastic, which has happened in last few decades, a simple thing like a vegetable bamboo basket, which was part of each and every household, has been replaced by a plastic basket which comes all the way from China. So it is, of course, it is made in India also, but it is in spite of bringing it all the way from imported plastic, is also much cheaper than whatever is made by hand in India. So awareness is one big area where Ekibeki is trying to work, both for the customers as well as the artisans, bringing them together, bridging the gap where the even the consumers are not aware of many Indian crafts. So we have over 3,000 crafts in our country. If you and me, all of us sit together, we won't be able to go beyond first 50 or 100 for that matter. So, bringing that awareness that what are the crafts available in our countries, and you can actually use it, that in itself is a big achievement. The other thing is making the artisans aware about how they can use the contemporary design so that their products can fit into the modern homes or the contemporary users, how people can use it in today's day and age. That is the second part what we do. So we actually bring artisans to bigger cities. We conduct workshops, hands-on workshops with people here, where people actually, when they interact with the artisans, they understand that the artisan understand what the people want, and people can see them in person. And when they try to make those things, they realize that, okay, handmade thing doesn't mean that it is something cheap labor or it is something really bad. What type of work and efforts go into it? Once you do that, you understand that, and that is how the demands increases. And third part is the ecosystem. So there are a lot of government and CSR projects which are happening in handicrafts. I would say it is still one of the smallest sector in terms of CSR funding, but there is some awareness now. But the holistic view is not there. Somebody will do just the skilling, somebody wants to do just the marketing, somebody wants to do just the design intervention. So looking at it holistically is something which we need to build, and that is what Ekibeki is trying to bridge the gap at all these 3 points.
Wonderful. So I'm going to come back to you on that, but I would want to ask Oindrila the challenges that you faced, right, working with artisans, because you're directly interacting with them more than what you would be with the consumer front, right?
Right.
So what are some of the challenges that you faced, and how have you addressed them?
So when I talk about the challenges that we face, so first is there is still a rigid mindset that the artisans have in terms of, for example, some craft, they have certain traditional values which are associated with the craft, right? Some cultures associated with the craft. So the older generation of the craftsmen, they are still a bit rigid in terms of, developing new designs and new product in that terms. But now when the new generation of the craftsmen are taking over, so they are more open to new product. They have an access to WhatsApp, they have an access to the Instagram, they are able to see the new product that is being developed and all. So that is one challenge that we face. Like I'll give you an example that happens, like in Chanderi, when I work at Chanderi, so there is a product called suit piece that happens, right? That is a two-piece suit piece, that is one kurta and one dupatte ka set that happens, right? So the artisans or the weavers are set in that format. They've been weaving that particular set of 5.5 meter length in a particular pattern. But when you ask them that there is a shift in the demand, like there is a probably the dupatta could be with these kind of designs, and the borders could be in both the sides, and then the kurta can come. So when we give this kind of input to the weavers, then they are a bit reluctant to accept that change, because creating that product, they've been doing it for years, and that is being accepted in the entire cluster. But when you give that kind of feedback, there is some kind of reluctance. Secondly, working with artisans, like after the COVID, people have become so much tech savvy, and like the new generation, when they are taking up the business, they are more open to new product and all. So they have become like, they are now, when you work directly closely with them, with the buyer's demand, like this is our demand, we want a product, say in 500 rupees, we want a particular product to be developed. But we know that when we actually get into production, the cost can exceed up to 800, 900. So, working closely with the artisans, with their thoughts, because they are the one who are actually skilled and expert, have an expertise in that particular field. So they can give you the input, like buy these kind of additional thing, or buy this kind of raw material and all, we can actually control the cost. In terms of design input, we help them, like we can probably reduce the motifs, we can use this kind of color, we can use this raw material, working on that. So these kind of collaborative approach in terms of product development has really helped. And I think now the artisans have also become quite adaptive to the new things and technology, and this is really very positive. And the craft sector has actually evolved to that segment, that definitely when given a proper platform, and as there is being a huge talk about the craft sector and all, definitely it can boom to a great extent.
Great, wonderful. So can we see maybe a shirt coming out of Chanderi rather than a suit and a dupatta?
Definitely, hopefully, because I've given these kind of feedback to the viewers, yeah, that this kind of thing, because when you talk about, see, they are producing it in terms of like that is being made, but when you think about I being a consumer, when I actually get it stitched, then there are challenges in stitching it. So at some
Right,
point of time, when you are taking that kind of product from Chanderi to Delhi's exhibition or any other big cities like Kala Ghoda or Mumbai's Kala Ghoda and other exhibitions, then these kind of challenges do come up, right? People don't understand because when they buy it, it is in a folded format. But when you open it, when you get it stitched, then obviously when somebody is spending 2,500, 3,000 bucks for a particular product, then definitely they'll feel some kind of value, then only they can buy it.
right. No, absolutely. That makes sense. And that brings me to the point, Vishpala, that I'd ask, how are you spreading awareness amongst your consumers, right? About the crafts and also how these crafts can be used.
So awareness, we like to start it really young. We have, unfortunately, we still don't have a structure where these crafts can come to school on a compulsory, as a compulsory subject. But there are a couple of schools who are open to these ideas. And that is one of our main sources of reaching out to the future customers. The idea is, if you know it from now, later on in life, you would actually make sure that you will actually reach out and buy these artifacts, or make use of them. The other way is storytelling, because what we do is through social media. We reach out to, we create a lot of videos and posts which inform the consumer about how the product is made. So we do a lot of storytelling around it. We bring the artisans to the forefront. If you'll see any of the Ekibeki products, you will see that the artisans are the main heroes. Artisan or the craft, based on the craft cluster, they are the main heroes, and not Ekibeki as a brand. Or also, along with that, we make sure that the designers are highlighted. I'm a designer, and I know the pain when you design something and just the company takes the credit for it. So we make sure that individual designers are also credited with whatever designs happen. So these are some ways through which we try and reach out to people. And one, if we have time, I have a very interesting story as to how this helps.
Sure.
I'll take just a minute. So before the lockdown, I was working with a couple of schools where these artisans, I would take the artisans to schools and we would do hands-on workshops. And all these students knew the artisans by their name. When the first lockdown started, after 2 months, I get a call from one of the school kids saying, "Auntie, how are your artisans managing?" Because they knew the artisans were selling only through exhibitions till then. So I said, yeah, that is a big problem, and we are trying to figure it out. These kids on their own started a fundraising campaign, and I'm not kidding, another NVS Ventures actually came forward, did the matching grant, and in the end we had almost 60 lakhs as donation coming only through school kids. So it was matched with, it was a 1:1 match, but these school students were so aware about the fact that there are artisans who are living in rural areas. And I think that is one of the biggest awareness campaign we could have managed to take forward.
That's wonderful. That's such a heartening story, and I agree absolutely that crafts awareness starts at an early age, right? Because then it becomes a part of your life, and you're seeing, as you said, like a mitti ka ghada is around you to have water, and you're appreciating it, over a simple bottled water or so many things, right? But going beyond the younger age group, right? Who are your modern day consumers? Who would be the people visiting Ekibeki and then buying from there today?
in fact, thanks to last few years, there has been a complete shift in the profile of the people who come to buy crafts. So I would say there are two type of people. One who would buy high-end handmade products, and the other are buying it because they are just coming into the, they're just getting to know about the sector and they want to explore. So a lot of younger generation people come, and they one of our best selling categories is jewelry. And
Vishpala, there's a network glitch.
oh, hello.
Yeah, now it's better.
It's better.
Yeah, it's better. Yeah.
So we have, so one is this high-end consumer. The other are the youngsters, younger generation, who want to have a small token with them. So right from stationery to the earrings or bookmarks, whatever is made out of craft, they are coming and buying it. And Instagram has become one of our biggest source. In fact, many of our younger artisans have created their own accounts, and they are able to sell via Instagram and Facebook. So I would say that digital literacy has reached the artisans, and I am so glad to see that these 20-25-year-old artisans are actually creating their own reels and uploading it and getting customers directly from the market.
That's wonderful to know. And I am going to take from here and ask Oindrila this, because you work in the live commerce sector, right?
Yeah.
Can you just explain what the live commerce space is? How can it benefit the craftspeople? And what are you doing to onboard artisans into this whole digital marketplaces?
So live commerce is all about you going at the cluster and going live from there, right? Where we are actually inviting the artisans, making them do the shows. Like we are making them make the product, give a demonstration live, and we are going live from there, talking about the product. For example, I am sitting at Delhi, but I want to buy something from MP, Chanderi, okay, or something from Banaras. I want to buy a Banarsi sari, authentic directly from the weaver. But I don't have an access. Sitting at Delhi, I don't have an access to an authentic weaver who is actually weaving at Banaras. So what we are doing, we are going there. We are asking the weaver to talk about the product, to show the product, demonstrate the product, and demonstrate the process. So there we are actually creating a medium where the artisan is actually being the salesperson and he's selling the product over the medium, but in the form of live, going live, and it's a virtual shopping experience that we are providing.
So, and if you can explain this a little better, right? If I, as a consumer, go to a live commerce platform, right? Do I have an artisan who I can easily connect to at any point of time, or is it more curated that, say Esmol goes to Banaras and then they would do a live exhibition online? How does that work?
So it works in that way. So right now, since we have just ventured into craft sector, so we've just curated certain products. So we have created a catalog of certain product range, like with a different variety with certain SKUs, and we've listed it on the portal. And then we are picking a particular SKU, we are creating live shows. The artisan is actually taking up a particular sari. The artisan is explaining the entire sari thing, about the pallus, about the fabric, about the designs, about the pricing. Because when you sell an expensive product or a handcrafted product, the entire demonstration, entire story behind creating that product need to be explained to the customer. So that way. And we've now venturing later on, we are just creating a time slot where we'll be having, for example, like in serials, we have certain time slots, like, so for a particular vendor or for a particular artisan, we'll have a time slot, like every day, example, morning 9 to 9:30, we are going to Diamond Handloom, that way. So that at that particular time, people can just log in, they can just see the live shows going on, and then they can shop. directly from
Right.
there.
Right.
So
And so the
that's how it's
inventories also with the artisans, and they are the ones who will be responsible for
yeah.
end-to-end supply of the product.
Yeah, so inventory is being kept at artisan's end, but the logistics and supply chain is being maintained by us because there are a lot of
And
remote
if you could,
clusters. Sorry,
right.
I just missed.
No, go ahead. I was just asking a
Yeah,
follow-up
so
question, but I'll
because
ask.
because there are a lot of clusters which are quite remote and we don't have proper logistics facility there. So shipping for artisan becomes a challenge. So there we take up the entire pain and we have logistic tie-ups with them. So there we get the product picked up, packed in a proper format because certain packing criteria are to be met where artisan may not be able to do that packing and the packing material may not be available there. So we provide the packing material and get it shipped.
Right, right, right. Uh, Also, just a curious question, right? When the artisans are selling, how are they defining their price point? Are you training them to do so? Are they picking up on market trends? What's the process of determining price points?
So when I talk about determining the price point, so the product is already being listed on the portal, right? It's already being listed on the app and already being listed on the website. So we've already decided the price. We work on like a particular price the artisan is mentioning that he needs that to be transferred in his account. So that is being paid to him. Apart from that, the logistic charges and all that is being added, and we are putting a listing price on the website. So when you
Right,
go to the website, you see the product, you open that, and we being given like live shows happening or live show coming up at certain particular time. So at the time you can log in and check for the product.
right, right, right. Uh, Vishpala, what is the case in terms of Eki Beki, right? Because you're a marketplace. Are you determining the prices? Because you also mentioned that there is a diverse range of audience, right? Which is either willing to pay too much for the crafts or expecting it at a very low price, right? So where do we hit the middle ground?
So pricing for us, we do it in a very transparent way. When we design a product, we typically do the market research, market trends, we check and then design a product. And then we decide that the pricing should be somewhere in this range. We decide a range. The whole costing is done with the artisans, where over the years now they have understood that we sell through multiple online partners. So, what is the percentage which goes to the online platforms, or if we are selling it directly, what is it that goes in the logistics? So, we have a very transparent way of creating these templates. And that is how we come to a final conclusion as to what should be the rate. So we typically average it out. So there are few items which are where a lot of work is needed, and we know that it can sell at this particular point. So we keep the prices there little higher. So it varies from point to point, and where we want to make these slightly affordable products for younger generation, where we create these printed stationery, which is done by any of the narrative craft artisans. There, the model is they get royalty on each and every printed item sold. So they have the full list of how many prints have been taken, and we decide a royalty based on how much work they have put in, and they do it. So for us, it is all based on trust and what the market trends are. And luckily, we touch wood, so far we have been extremely lucky that we have always managed to arrive at a point where both of us have been really happy.
That's great to know. Another question that I'd like to ask, as a follow-up is, uh, there are a lot of designs that are being provided to the artisans, and each design would have multiple copies, right? How do you ensure standardization in terms of design as well as the quality of the products?
Standardization in terms of handicrafts goes two ways. One is you have to understand that there will be little variation, and that is the beauty of handicraft. So that is something the customer has to be aware of. But a lot of time goes in explaining it to the artisan that if a client is asking you for a 6-inch circular pink color bowl, it has to be a 6-inch circular pink color bowl. It cannot go as a blue color bowl. So typically it takes them a lot of time, but it's not difficult. It is not difficult once they understand, where it is going and how it is going. So that is why we make them part of our design process also. It is extremely difficult for them to come to that point where they understand what the good quality means. So you have to be little ruthless initially, where you actually need to reject few pieces, although you know that in an exhibition you can sell it. Unless you do that, they don't get the concept of what is really required. And here I'm not saying that you have to compromise with the quality. Quality has to be the highest all the time, but they have to certain standardization. So we actually use certain tools to make these standard processes where the shape and size we create molds and dies through which all these products go, so that you have certain uniformity. And then whatever is done by hand, those little bit of variations are allowed within that.
Right. Anjula,
We have modules for this, so that is part of the skilling module when we work with any artisan.
that's wonderful. Anjula, do you have anything to add to this?
So yeah, one thing I would like to add, as Vishpala mentioned, that yes, there is no there has to be certain things has to be there. Like if it is a ping ball, it has to be a ping ball. It cannot be a blue ball. But over the time, when you teach them, like as Vishpala also mentioned, that these are being included in the training modules. But when you teach the artisans, I feel it can easily be incorporated in the craft and the production. And this is like teaching these kind of quality things to the artisan actually helps in scaling the craft, right? Because when you talk about creating 10 pieces or 20 pieces, it is easy to control the entire process. But when you're producing 1,000 pieces, 1,500 pieces, then there is a challenge, and definitely there is going to be variation happening. But checking checking the entire process at each and every step, like checking the raw material, checking this actually helps in taking the output to be the best, and rejecting the entire pieces at the last. So and everything, it involves certain kind of maths in this. When I talk about taking an example of ikat, the motifs, these are quite variation. Ikat itself is a tie and dye craft, and there happens a lot of variations in when you produce like 15,000, 20,000 meters of ikat, right? But when you keep a check at a very initial stage, when you are marking on the threads, like keeping a check at each and every step, like it has to be 1.5 centimeter, that kind of check if you're keeping, when you're teaching the artisans, like these are to be done, and initial rejections, it actually happens, and at later stage it helps in scaling the craft.
Right. So the bottom line would be keep checking during the process of craft production, and
Yes.
also be honest with a ruthless feedback if needed.
Yes.
For the crafts to,
and actually training them with logics, like why we are keeping a check, because dealing with artisan, when we are doing a ruthless, it is not about ruthless, because they are quite sensitive to handle. We have to actually explain them that why these kind of checks need to be done and why these kind of processes need to be followed. And when you explain them with logics and with actual, because they are also have an expertise in this particular field, so they again give their own input, and overall the entire outcomes comes out to be great. So that
right.
way.
Right. No, I think that's very critical. Thank you for highlighting these points. I'll take a slight diversion from what we've been discussing so far, but of course relevant. But before that, to our audiences, we'll be opening the floor so you can keep your questions coming in the Q&A box. And one more question that I'd like to ask both Vishpal and Andrila. Both of you are associated with Creative Dignity, with NICE, and these are ecosystem platforms that we are building, right? To help cultural entrepreneurs in every possible manner. Vishpal, I'd like to start with you. One is if you could explain what creative dignity is and what is the importance of such networks, right?
So, Creative Dignity is actually a network of all the people who are interested in craft. So, it's not an organization. It is just a network of people who came together during COVID. On 20th of April, there was a WhatsApp chat, and we just started talking as to what is happening in the craft sector. And that is how this whole group came together. These are all the volunteers who are working with various NGOs, for-profit organizations, artisans, entrepreneurs, designers, whoever is connected in crafts in any which way. So initially it was just to see during COVID time that how we can help the artisans. Over the time, we realized that it is a huge, huge pool of interested people who actually want to come under one umbrella and do something. So we have continued that as an network, and that is where Andrila and I actually met earlier. There is no requirement as to beyond that that you have to be interested in the craft. That is what everyone comes together, and we have done multiple projects. We started with relief operations for the artisans. That is after that we managed to sell, literally we realized we had crores of worth of handicrafts lying with the artisans, and during the lockdown more than 5 crores of stocks was moved only through digital catalogs, because that was still the time when people were not going out. And now over the last 1 year, we have done various initiatives through which we are reaching out to various other people. These are all ecosystem builders, and we do need many such ecosystem builders in the craft sector, because till now what was happening is people were working in silos and everyone is trying to reinvent the wheel, and so nobody was reaching anywhere. Here you can learn from each other, you can collaborate and co-create and move forward. I think that's the only way through which we can see the real impact in the sector.
Right. Thank you. Andrila, how have you benefited as a volunteer with this network? Of course, you've contributed towards growing it, but in your journey, what has been your experience being at the receiving end?
So I was a part of Creative Dignity as a buyer, as a volunteer. And there, when we were in 2020, when this initiative started basically, so there we actually got to know about a lot of craft when we were actually creating digital catalogs, right? We had created catalogs statewide with different craft. Then we got to know about a lot of craft, and bringing those craft to the limelight later on, and now also we keep on onboarding a lot of them. We keep reaching out to them for different products. Probably at that point of time we were not able to do some kind of product interventions with them, but to a certain extent we were able to move certain stocks at that stage. But over the years we've been able to do some kind of product development with them. And now with our inputs also, the artisans have been also able to do some kind of product development themselves also, and selling them on their own platforms. Then WhatsApp business have become very active. So yes, with Creative Dignity, this was also one thing, that WhatsApp business, many artisans have started using that aggressively. They used to do it, but post 2020, aggressively they've been doing this. And creative dignity, again, it was again a collaborative approach. Buyers, sellers, artisans, everybody came together, joined hands, and supported the entire craft sector at that point of time. And today also we are a part of it, and we've been helping each other, growing the craft, helping the artisans. A lot of artisans have uh, got a lot of momentum in their products and in their businesses. So that way it really helped a lot.
Right. So there was a question about what is the name of the organization. It is called Creative Dignity. And to be a member of this, you can check the website www.creativedignity.org. Vishpala has also posted the link in the chat box. But I think that it's gone only to the panelists. So yeah. So that's the name, organization. You can check their website and yes, so thanks, Pritha, for posting it. And Pritha has also asked a question. I'll take this up with both Vishpala and Andrila. So she said that she's curious that once brands get popular and grow their revenues exponentially, how is that improving or impacting the economic and financial condition of artisans? So how much does this revenue actually trickle down on the grounds, right? Vishpala.
Yeah, okay, I can take that question. So, Pritha, at least for Eki Beki, I can say that our overall costing is very transparent. So whatever happens, we have a very fixed ratio which goes to all the stakeholders, and the artisans are aware about it. So when we are growing, we are growing, and we are adding new artisans. So as and when the artisans get added to it, the overall pool increases. Currently we are not working on the reverse calculations where if we make more profits, we will give more to the artisans. Currently, in fact, they get a blanket price where if there are any losses, the losses are on us. This is just to build the trust and take it to the next level. But when we grow, the idea is to create a producer-owned companies. So these companies would be owned by the artisans. Right now, also, artisans are selling it to various stakeholders. Artisans are not part of Eki Beki. They are their own clusters, or they sell to Eki Beki, or they are free to sell the same designs to outside market also. So that is at least how we are growing, and Oindrila might have a different answer, but when you are growing exponentially, again, your artisans, of course, they are the main stakeholders, so they eventually grow with you.
Right. Andrila, what do you have?
I absolutely agree with Vishpala. When we actually grow exponentially, then definitely we are also giving a huge volume of business to a particular artisan, right? Because over the time, when you grow your business, the artisan also grows with you. In initial days, probably we are giving an X amount of business. Over the time, we are just increasing the amount to X ki power 2, X ki power 3, that way, right? So in terms of increasing the volume, that happens. Secondly, in terms of the quantities also, we are actually enabling the artisan to increase the capacity and the quantities of the artisan also. So in that way, when that particular person is able to produce X amount of good, and with growth, the person is able to produce, for example, 2x or 3x amount of goods. So he is also building his own capacity, which he can utilize for other organizations also. So that way also it is helping out. When you are growing exponentially and your artisan is also growing.
Pritha, I hope that answers your question. Anand is asking, I'm just going to try understanding and rephrasing this question. How do you ensure artisans grow through training them? Anand, I hope that's what you mean, right? Okay, so if you could just rephrase it, because if I read out, it means how do you think in terms of growing the artisans in terms of training of people. So it's not very clear to me. Vishpala, you're on mute.
Anand, do you mean that or how do you train the artisans so they grow on their own?
I think what he means is growing the arts by training the people and making them familiar.
Creating more number of clusters or creating more number of artisans.
Yeah, I think that's what. So you could just answer that, Vishpala.
Yes, okay, I got your point. A lot of artisans keep their secrets to themselves. Okay, so luckily that trend is now changing a little bit. Earlier, in fact, that has been a big reason why many of the crafts have died, because one is it was all caste-based, family-based, and they were not even taught to the daughters of the house. So because the daughter will get married, go to the other house, and she may steal the secret or whatever. So that has been the case so far, and that has been the reason why many of the crafts have died. Luckily, I would say this trend is changing. I have personally seen many of my artisans who have their daughters and daughter-in-laws are joining the craft, which has been a great change. When you make them secure, that is the time when they actually open up, and then they will share their secrets. So instead of trying to making them as your employees or something, give them the freedom to practice the craft on their own. Give them the tools, give them the agency to speak for themselves, and once they are little secure, emotionally secure, socially secure, they are really open to change and share their ideas.
Right. Anand, I hope that answers your question. We have another question from Shweta. If we wish to work or develop a product with the artisans, what is the right process? So how do you bring that artisan, designer, entrepreneur collaboration?
Okay, Shweta, this is a very good question. If you are a designer, I can share the secret. You just need a lot of patience, and you have to first build the trust. It is, I have been working with the artisans for over 20 years now. Now I am at a level where, they will not ask me for payment. If at the end of a project, if I tell them that, okay, this is the payment you will receive, they will blindly take that. But because over the years, we have built that trust. Unfortunately, the middleman and the various agents and brokers in between have managed to break the trust in artisans, and they don't really trust outsiders, especially designers, because many designers have actually worked with them, not paid them because their ranges have not done well. So it is not the artisan's mistake where the artisan has put his or her soul, worked and given you a product, and it is not, the designer has not managed to reach the market. When you are doing any business with the artisan, one very interesting thing I recently read was you need a mind, hand, and market connect. So only having a great design doesn't help, only having a great artisan doesn't help, and only having a great brand or great marketplace doesn't help. Unless all these three come together and collaborate, you will not see a great success. So, initially try and work through someone, some organization who is already working with the artisans. Try and work through them. Once you gain entry, once you gain their trust, they would automatically work with you. But you will need a lot of patience. Unfortunately, this field this sector is not so open to outsiders yet.
Right. So design and talents aside, patience is the key. Andrila, what do you have to add to this?
I absolutely agree. And second thing, we have to treat them, in a very friendly manner. I would suggest meeting them directly, rather than if you are a designer, you should visit them, you should try to build a relationship with them. Once they have a trust factor, then they start considering you to be their family members, and then they can collaborate, they can share their ideas, and it will be very easy for you to create and develop your ideas into product. But yes, patience is the key. And secondly, visiting and meeting them in person. Try to connect to them, because they are very sensitive, they are very naive in that sense, and you have to build a connect with them for getting something done.
One more thing I would like to add to this is I work with a lot of students, and most students, when they go to the artisans, they go with a chip on their shoulder saying that we are well educated, we have studied design, and so we know more than you. So you have to understand one more thing, that they have been doing this craft for centuries, like for generations. So what they have learned through experience, you can never learn sitting in a classroom. So showing that respect and accepting that they know something, and when the artisan says that this cannot be done, accepting it and trying and finding a solution together is something you have to work together with them. You have to be very, very respectful to them. Once you do that, it's very easy to work with them.
Right. I hope those points were helpful for designers as well as entrepreneurs. We do have a lot of questions coming, right? So I'll take this question because I think this is important. It's from Dr. Pallavi, and she asks how to build your brand and create awareness about it. Please inform about the supply chain and the packaging process for a far-flung areas, which is also important, I suppose, right? Because even the hinterlands have so much of crafts, but how do you take it to the market? We'll start with Vishpala and then Andrila.
I can tell you that I have moved. Eki Beki's warehouse is actually in a very small village called Bhaimala in Alibag. It is really a very small remote village, and 3 rural girls actually manage the whole back end for us. These are girls who have 2 of them have done their BCom and 1 has done BSc computers. They have never stepped out of their villages, but they manage all our 15 online panels, including our website orders, pack it. If there are any order replacements to be done, they will manage the inventory, go to the artisan, call them, get the things sorted. And I'm really, really proud how these 3 have changed the whole ecosystem for us. We wanted to work only with the artisans in rural areas, but these are the supporting activities which are happening within that area. So you have to Pallavi, I would just say you have to give you have to explore this a bit. Speed post works very well in remote areas. Courier options are a bit problem, and in handicrafts, packaging and that is a huge issue. Maybe Oendrila is better equipped to answer that. We are doing it with trial and error. We have managed few things, but Oendrila would be a better person to reply on that.
Yeah, Oendrila?
Yeah, so you have to check like what kind of product you are actually getting and from the source. So if it is a hard good, if it is something which can be breakable, so you have to train the artisan probably beforehand. You have to give them some training, like how to pack a particular product, like sourcing a ceramic product or a blue pottery from Jaipur, right? You have to get it shipped to Mumbai. So you have to, give those kind of packaging instruction. Then probably putting it in a 5-ply box instead of a putting it in a 3-ply and then put it in a 5-ply box and corrugated sheet in that way. So you have to do some kind of like mismatch and check like what is working for you. And secondly, your destination, you have to do some kind of drop test also. So all these industry standards and parameters are to be taught to the artisan, right? Because when you are doing it in a larger production, then these things are to be kept in mind, and these all should be a part of artisanal training when you are actually training the artisan for the production batch. Secondly, in terms of logistics, so a lot of local courier partners and local transporters have been successful in getting the goods at a very reasonable price and on time also. Like Gati is a logistic partner. Then Speed Post, as Vishpala mentioned, have been very useful. Then a lot of local transporters like VRL Logistics and all, who operates nationally, but they are strong at a particular location, like they are south based or in Delhi, in Rajasthan. So state based and locally, a lot of logistic partners, they help. And the price point also, they give you a very good price point, so do check with. So once you are getting a product from certain place, do check with the local partners for sure, to get a good costing in the logistics. Because at the end, when you add up the cost of the product, so logistics do play an important part, packaging do play an important part in the product costing. So keeping a check on the kind of packaging you are doing, the logistic partner that you are using, can actually save a lot on the product costing, and you can actually make the product at a very reasonable price.
Right, right. No, I think those were wonderful tips by Vishpal and Angela both. That's very important for any crafts-based brand to keep in mind, especially because transporting crafts, the fragility, durability, all of those things matter a lot, right? So yeah, thank you so much. We're also running short of time now. It's almost 6. But to my audiences, I would request you to do write to us at arona@niceorg.in with your questions, and Vishpala and Angela will forward them to you, and then you could respond to them as well, and we'd be publishing it on our website. Hope that works for everybody. And I'd also like to inform you that with the winters closing in and the holiday season starting, we'd be pausing our Aarohana series for some time, but we'll definitely get back to you with another set of exciting sessions. Till then, we wish you all the best, Vishpala and Angela, and to everybody to come and contribute to this whole ecosystem of building cultural brands. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Lovely talking.
Thank you, Arunima.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Arunima. Thank you for inviting. Great talking. All the best.
Yes.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you.